Hi, this is SA Frontline NGO podcast, here to give you the latest news on South African non-profit organizations and a platform to providing the skill set to start your NGO. On this podcast, we will discuss the basics from registering an NGO to applying for funding, here to give you what you need to know about starting an NGO in South Africa, with your hosts, Cheryl and Laniel Hartzenberg. So tune in with us at SA Frontline NGO. Hi everyone, we just want to let you know about the tool that we have been using to upload these podcasts that you have been listening to. It's called Anchor.fm. It's a really cool and easy to use app, and it's free. We had absolutely no hassle recording and publishing our first podcast. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or phone. For added simplicity, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so that it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi everybody, I am Laniel Hartzenberg and we are officially doing our first podcast of SA NGO Frontline.
Yes, everyone, it's been quite a while since our previous podcast, but we are here back.
Ready? You know what? We are trying to do this podcast and
I'm telling you, it's really not that easy. It's a process.
It's a process, ja, but soos ek en Cheryl moet sê, ons doen dit, ons leer van dit en soos tyd en wel, dinge gaan beter raak en soos julle kan hoor, het gaan 'n bietjie. Ons gaan Afrikaans en Engels mix up because first of all my eerste taal is Afrikaans and yes, we're going to mix it up a bit and
ja, net om bietjie meer gemaklik te wees en meer natuurlik voor te kom aan die.
Ja, en die audience en ook hoe ons te werk kan gaan. Maar soos ons gesê het, so we're going to speak a bit about Comwell, right? And just to say like how actually our NGO started and what was the reason behind us doing Comwell. And yeah.
Ja, ons het 'n agenda vir die dag voorgelê. So ons gaan in diepte praat oor die agtergrond van Comwell First.
And just to take it back, so initially Cheryl and I, we were part of an NGO since 2018. We were part of an NGO that kind of opened our eyes to why we want to be part of community work, and like for my sake, why I wanted to actually go further and go on this journey with being an agent of change within our communities, and one of the things was initially back in the day, and I think if you can remember the whole life epidemic and how mental health patients were treated, and I think when that hit home for South Africa, that was a crucial or significant part.
Yes, that was a big eye opener as to what is going on, how government is using resources, NGO resources available to them.
Yes, and I think we all think about what is going wrong and what is going very well in South Africa, and I think for young people, it's a time for us to actually take firm action and start doing something that you can feel that you are proud to do this type of work. You know, being part of a non-profit organization isn't the most easiest thing. really it's not easy. It's hard work. It's you're constantly thinking up. It's actually more work than getting paid for what you're working for and what you're working, because you and sometimes you work alone.
Yes, and you give so much of yourself. It's not just your hours, but also the amount of emotional well-being that you need to put into doing this kind of work. It does require a lot of strength.
So, in essence, Comwell, which stands for Community Wellness First, we're looking at communities, but our core focus is looking at mental health and holistic health care within our schooling systems, within our communities. So we all know that there's a high stigma of mental health in South Africa. I mean, mental health in South Africa and in our communities. Ons weet hoe ons mense is, nee.
Niemand gaan na die silwer, niemand glo daarin nie. Ons glo nie om te praat oor ons probleme nie.
Of eens ons probleem wat ek altyd vind in ons communities, nee, en ek dink dit is iets wat that our parents never taught us, and you can see it is actually to how to communicate with one another and with yourself about small things. En ons het altyd die build-up conflict, die build-up van ons weet nie om mekaar te praat oor klein goedjies, en dit veroorsaak groter probleme in die long run. Dis my opinie, en ek weet nie, en dis hoe ek voel. En mental health, of sê, om te sê soos Cheryl ons nou gesê het, just to say that you're going to a psychologist, or you on some form of antidepressants, or you're going through a bad trauma, or just going to a psychologist or seeking health is a taboo thing. En ek weet nie is regtig in baie in huishoude hoeveel mense gaan regtig of sien, het al ooit 'n sielkundige in hulle leeftyd gesien nie. En ek dink dit is iets wat die stigma van mental health actually vergroot.
Ja, en omdat dit soos hulle sê, dis invisible, jy kan dit nie sien nie. Dit is iets wat die persoon en die familie self ervaar. En dit is moeilik vir mense, die gemeenskap, jou huisgesin, om te weet waar jy gaan. So, dis hoekom ons gevoel het, Comwell is 'n goeie begin om iets in die gemeenskap te bring, om die stigma bloot
en te verlig.
Ja.
En te verlig, want toe ons gegaan het in die vorige NGO wat ons mee gewerk het, and we had our launch, and we had our launch, and what we realized when speaking to the educators and the principals at the schools is that there is a huge need for this kind of awareness campaigns within our schooling system. Teachers can't, daar's omtrent seker so 60 kinders in 'n klas, en ek bedoel vir een onderwyser om met 60 kinders te deel, en wat vir elke kind het sy eie struikelblokke, as ek like they have got their own problems, you know.
Kom met hulle eie challenges in na die skool toe.
And that teacher can't always look after every single holistic
as well as catering to the educational value or quality that the child needs to receive at the school. The teacher just can't cope with all that is on a plate.
Yeah, and what Comwell does basically, it's helping the educator deal with not just looking at if the child maybe has a form of a learning disability, or that child comes from a very traumatic household. Comwell steps in or assists that teacher not only to get the best for the kid, but also the best for her as an educator, so that she can basically do her work to the best of her abilities.
Yes.
So it's saying that if a child comes and whatever the child or even the parent has come in and saying, look, we need help, or the child say, hey, my household is so that I can't study during the day, I don't have food, I have or whatever trauma, of whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's physical abuse, Comwell and the worker steps in order to assist that child to the full capabilities. Or at least this is the idea of Comwell. Let us first start by saying that our NGO is only a year going on. So that year now, it's maybe
it's going into
it's 7 months, which means 7-8 months. So which means there's a lot of background work that we are still doing. So as this podcast is growing, and we are going to basically saying keeping you informed and to where we are in our process of becoming as well, having a successful NGO. I mean, this is a journey that we are sharing.
Yeah, this is why we started this podcast, because we wanted everyone to go on this journey with us and share all the knowledge that we learned throughout this process with anyone else who thinks of trying to make a social change in their community, whatever the project may be. But just letting people know that it is accessible to start your own NGO.
Yeah, and like Cheryl also mentions, is that the fact that when we initially started Comwell, we primarily looked at mental health but also looking at your health, and seeing how, I don't know.
For me personally, my educational background had a lot to play with getting into the NGO. Initially, it was my work was mostly directed at, and I'm going on to the specific roles that each of us plays within the NGO. Mine, which consists mostly of researching and setting up the courses that students or youth workers would be taking, to give them skills to do the mental health surveys with the youth that come in, so that they can, let me not say categorize students, but so that they can identify the core needs that these students have and place them in the required projects that they need to develop whatever is needed for them.
And I mean, Cheryl never, this is something, once you go into an NGO, you basically do everything. You do everything, from making designs of pamphlets, from arranging meetings, from being part of discussions of stakeholders with the social development, from actually knowing how website development or even proposal.
I did everything. Basically, you learn to do everything.
You do everything, and that's the thing. If you want to make a change and not be afraid to actually to fill in those different types of roles, even though that might not be your strong point, but you're able to learn and grow into it. But when Cheryl actually refers to students, she really means like the students within the class system. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's just for students. It is a spectrum of children, young adults, and youth who are seeking adult mental health care. And so it's a spectrum where basically Comwell is directed at patient centered health care. So within our various communities, I mean, the projects that we are looking also at and with doing Comwell is also affiliating ourselves with other small entities or small organizations that
within the community, that established organizations in the community that are already doing some form of social development work, whether it's mental health development as well.
We are aligning ourselves with those, and where we can assist and see maybe they need some help with how to raise funds or how to create charity
and it's also
fundraising campaigns.
It's also best to use the resources at hand, and these organizations are already there. They have the implemented programs, and it's best to sometimes look at what the child or the community member needs.
Yeah, and so when we started the nonprofit organization, we wanted to focus within our area. We did a bit of research and looking to see like what are the schools we want to work with. You know, it's important to understand that once you want to tackle any project, that you need to do some research, whether in this case for a business sector, you will call it market research. So what we looked at schools, and to see whether what schools would be most needed for the type of services that we want to provide. That was one of the key things, looking at the schools, looking at what type of quintile schools they are, like whether it's a quintile 1 school to your quintile 5 schools, and seeing, like, even though what I've realized throughout the research, just because it's a quintile 4 and 5 school, which is on the higher end, I mean, the school would be your, what is the word, your beter afskole, as ek kan
so say your model C school.
Yeah, your model C schools doesn't necessarily mean those schools are not in need. And that is one thing that we have established and seen. And also our statistics shows that 1 out of every 3 people suffers from mental health condition and or some form of inadequate healthcare system. And I think during this time of our pandemic, mental health has severely increased. I mean, our gender-based violence has increased, poverty has increased. All these things has an influence within our mental health, and how it influences every aspect of our lives. I can definitely say that. So for us, our team is structured in such a way that besides Cheryl, was mostly looking at our funding and structuring of documents and our administrative side. We also have 3 board members, which is Brenda Hartzenberg, which is our mother. She's also the CEO board member of the NGO. And what I like is that when there's 3 people, or how many people on the board, they are not just randomly chosen. Depending on what your type of NGO you do, you need to look at is this people going to bring value? What type of skill sets do they have? And what is the challenges, what you're going to foresee in the NGO, and how do they fit in? So Brenda is she's a registered nurse. She worked overseas, and she worked in Saudi Arabia, and she wants to bring back to her knowledge of healthcare within to South Africa. Yes. Then there's Jennifer Leonard, she's also a board member, and she has over 30 years knowledge of the police
services. Yes. She worked as a captain at Makassar as well as Kalicha police station.
And she brings a variety of knowledge for someone who, not just outside of the healthcare, but how protocols work in the event if a child or a person is in severe need. You know, as in who's the go-to person, who are your front runners, what needs to be done, how long the system, because
the legal
processes of assisting is I would say one of the most important things, because we in South Africa.
Yes, because you need to basically think of everything your NGO is going to require in order to facilitate what it is you want to do. So making sure the legality side of things are in place when taking on or working with children, those things are important. And it was important to get board members who know what
to do.
Yes.
What to do. It's important to get board members, not just board members to be on the board, but how the community and the networking within your local communities work. And then we have Deborah Whelan. She's also a board member, and she's a registered nurse in the ICU section. And so for us, it was really important to understand, have people within the medical field, but also people within the police service, and understanding what is happening. And then there's me
and what most importantly, they are frontline workers.
Yeah, they are
These
frontliners.
are frontline workers. They've always been at the front line of assisting and servicing the community. And that is something that was so important, is that these people innately in the core of their identity, they are there. They've always been there to service the community.
And I have to mention, they are women. Naturally, we as women tend to be caregivers, and we are caregivers. We in our families, we are the core in order to always help and assist. And then there is Chriselle Johnson, who is the human resource manager. And when we decided to initially start, like I said, we looked at schools, right? And then we also looked at what were the schools that we're going to services, and then what is the area. And because we come from the Plattelandse dorp, we come from Pakkelsdorp and George
I think
area.
Maddie needs to speak for herself.
Oh yeah,
I'm originally from Cape Town, thank you.
Yes, ek kom van Pakkelsdorp because of Plattelandse mensie. So. And we wanted to give back to a community that we also feel and we understand, and there's a network that we can get that we can actually help and assist us. And that's the most important thing. You need to also think about your network, where you want to do an NGO. Alhoewel ons tans nou in die Kaap bly, reg? And we still want to go back to our roots. Yes. If you go back and
that's the thing, our grassroots is
in George. But since we are here, we're looking at various other places where we can affiliate ourselves with and assist and help those smaller NGOs that are struggling at the moment, and see how we can assist them basically, and without not doing the work or the work that we love doing. The projects that we have set aside that we're going to be doing to make some small change and make a difference in someone else's life, and also achieve our visions, is looking at holiday programs, peer-to-peer supports like your work readiness programs, and have healthcare and have an engaged community networking, like talking to other NGOs. And it's so important to speak to other NGOs, because as an NGO, you do not stand alone. You can never stand alone, think that you're going to run the cause and just do everything on your own. No, you need your government sector, you need your private sector, you need your other NGOs, and you need your community, which is the most important, for them to have a buy-in into what you are saying that you're going to do.
Yeah, in this case, everybody needs to get a stake of the pie.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to get their hands in.
Because I see it as a triangle, where you have your family, your schools is in the heart and the core. And where your churches, your religion entities is in the circle. And then you have your governments, you have your business, and then you have your NGOs, and all of that needs to play a role in one individual's life in order to have that individual be successful. Because that's in essence what Comwell is about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I believe what we need to do. So
I definitely agree.
So
with you.
In essence, that's a little bit about where, what, and why we're doing.
So now to get to the nitty-gritty,
which is
financials and funding. Well, the most challenging part, I would say, of the NGO would be financials.
Yeah.
That is always, it's for us, it's been a challenge, a new NGO. There is a lot that is expected when it comes to getting funding.
I think the financials and funding and things like that, I think once our next podcast that we can speak a little bit too about how you delve on financials but
maybe we should talk about the registering process of when it comes to financials.
Yes.
How is it for us?
So for registering NGO, it's basically the same like you're registering a business. You need to be registered as an NGO at the CPIC. You register for it. I mean, then you need to also know that you need to register at the social development so that you can have your registration certificate to kind of say that you are an NGO. Once you have those type of things, and a lot of people think it's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. I know there are many places out there that's asking you 500 to 1,000 rand to register. It doesn't. I think it's about 175 rand to register.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to do it yourself.
And then just register, and social development don't even ask you anything to register. However, and this is the thing that people tend to forget, if you're an NGO, you are still paying tax. You are still liable to pay tax. In case you change over and you become a benefit organization, what's called a BPP, a public benefit organization, which then you don't pay tax depending on the type of work and your financials. I also advise most people to actually get a tax practitioner do the work, to help you, and also maybe get an accountant.
Yes, and also to be on point when it comes to your financial responsibility. Keep track of everything.
Yes,
that you
every
do.
Single cent.
It's important to document everything. There's no such thing as something's not important.
Yeah, and I think what I've learned in the past is your data management. You accumulate so many papers during the time of writing up and doing type of thing. You accumulate a lot of papers, and whether it's your proposals that you need to rewrite and think about how to structure a proposal, that is something else also that we're going to be going into into depth for further podcasts, how to write a proposal, especially for an NGO, because what is needed and what is not needed when you write, because we become so passionate about everything that you do, and you believe everybody's just going to like what you are giving. Not everybody
but
cares.
There is protocols.
There's protocols, yes, and whether it's a synopsis, whether it's what is the difference between writing a proposal and an executive statement.
This is not a dating site. I don't think the
the keywords that you use in order to have people actually take your funding proposal, and for most people, the way I see it is, you can be creative, right? But be creative in a way that you still stand out in writing a funding proposal. I mean, Cheryl and I when we were students, we wrote a lot of proposals in order to get money from NRF
And for me personally, I would say the key thing to remember when also writing a proposal is to remember that you are in essence selling something. Yeah. Whether it is a service, a product, you need to sell your service through your proposal. That is very important to keep in mind.
And this is all the things that we learned from when we used to work at the previous NGO. And I keep mentioning the previous NGO, and I remember basically saying that and this is one of the hardest lessons that I've learned. Sometimes things that you grow, your NGO or the project that you're working is your baby, right? But sometimes things just don't work out. then you need to know how to let go. And it's okay if a certain part of the NGO that you love to do and you're giving your whole heart to do, if it doesn't work out, you analyze, you see how you can make changes. If you can't make any changes, it's okay to dump it. Like, it's okay to dump it and start something else, or see what is the mistakes that you've made in the past and rework those. And I think we are so into just making this one thing work. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But still keep in mind that you do have your networks and you do have your community that you also need to fall back on.
On those.
Yeah. And also accountability. Accountability to your plan. Not saying the plan didn't work, but accountability to what you are creating. And it might change.
Yeah, and the role you play to making it work.
Yeah.
It's very important for all parties to be accountable for what it is they need to do to make this project function, or to make the NGO function.
Yeah, and in terms of like with the financials, trying to find out what are, I know NGOs in the beginning you struggle to have some form of, some people don't even know anything about accounting when you do it. I know I didn't know much about accounting.
I still don't know sometimes.
I don't know like accounting, but there are so many free courses that you can apply to and see how you can learn, if just a little bit. I mean, we all use Excel.
Yeah, and we'll also get into companies or organizations like CEDA who do assist in funding, or how to get funding.
But CEDA doesn't assist in funding in for NGOs. No, CEDA only does businesses. They don't do. However, it doesn't necessarily mean
you can't use
learn and go and see what do they offer in order for you to learn a little bit more.
Yes.
And then there are other NGOs like your art labs that are teaching you how to use your computer, how to use Excel, how to do web designing. There are many other NGOs that offer these courses for free. In terms of financials and data management and record keeping, I mean, what we currently use now, we're using Dropbox, we're using Google Drive, we're using Evernote we're using. And for the accounting part, using Wave, you can even use Zoho. Zoho. There are QuickBooks if you want to spend a little bit more money.
We're going to put all of these things that we've mentioned in the notes for our podcast.
Yes, and then you can just click on the links and see and follow and see what where to go from there. And for funding is a thing, eh? Sometimes you need to develop your own funding system. How you develop your own funding system, that's up to you. But developing a funding system, because sometimes you have about 10 applications that you need to apply for, right? And they are on different dates, but you need to still keep in mind that you can have 5 people looking for funding, but not to do 5 work 5 times over and over. It's important to know, maybe you applied for Mari Trust, or you applied for Elna Foundation, or you applied for Cyril Ramaphosa's Foundation, and you applied, so that you all know where you stand and who applied for what. So I don't know, Cheryl's going to speak a little bit. So next, we're going into our second session for this podcast, and then we'll just keep a bit coming to a little bit of a news or what's
a new segment. We've added a new segment, but let's go for a break.